All right, everybody, welcome back. Good evening. We've got some more Pro Football Focus stuff to take a look at here. We've got some more Pro Football Focus grading to evaluate. We're doing the defense this time, and again, I say this at the start of pretty much every Pro Football Focus video. I'm not saying Pro Football Focus gets everything right. I'm not saying they get everything wrong. I'm just looking at what they did. I'm just trying to understand what they see and see how it compares to what I thought I saw. All right. So the defense is the side of the ball that we're a little happier with right now as Seahawks fans, I think. They played really well overall yesterday, holding the Jets to 7 points on a drive that only resulted in any points because of a face mask call that was bad luck. 7 points on a drive that started inside the Seahawks 30-yard line because of a special teams fumble, and then 7 points on a kickoff return. And that's it. So, really, the fact that we're here right now, having won that game, is phenomenal and a testament to how good the defense was. So, just starting with the overall grading for this team, I think we all saw this one coming. Leonard Williams is number one with his 92.6. Really good scores all around. Little bit confused as to how this stuff works out. I don't know how they give him a sub 70 pass rush grade given how effective he was as a pass rusher. I don't know how he gets a 78.3 in coverage when he had 2 coverage snaps and he had a 92-yard pick 6 on one of them. Like, that should guarantee you at least a 98, right? Unless you give up a 90-yard touchdown on the other one, which we know he didn't. I don't know. But 92.6, number one. Number two, and this one doesn't surprise me either, Julian Love. Julian Love gets a very good score here. I thought he jumped off the page in that game, personally. I thought he played really well. They grade him really well for run defense, tackling, and coverage. He had 1 pass rush snap they didn't grade him well on, but that doesn't really affect anything. And then we got Reek Woolen here. Almost an 80, including by far the highest run defense score of any player on the team. I gotta be honest, I don't know if I buy this, and I know I'm not alone here, because watching that Jets game, there were some plays where I thought Woolen was dogging it. I thought he wasn't really giving effort. I thought he looked a little bit slow and lazy. And there were other people in my chat and on X and in the Discord server who were seeing the same thing. So this surprises me. I think he did fine overall in coverage, even though he got lucky with some drops, but I don't know if I buy it. 79.3, when you look at the fact that they give him pretty bad grades for some really good games that he's played in his career, like, this is the game that you're going to give Woolen a good grade? You never give him a good grade, and this is the game? I don't get it. I don't get it. Kobe Bryant, good grade here, 77.5. He continues to really do a good job finding his home in the safety position. And that kind of is the cutoff for the players that were, like, really particularly good, right? Then we're getting down into a couple players who were a little above average in Boye Mafe and Tyrese Knight. They were both serviceable. Okada played 2 snaps, doesn't mean anything. Draymond Jones, actually, for maybe the first time this season, had a really good pass rush grade. He actually got rewarded for his pressure count, but he was a miserable tackler. Well, in the sense that he had 0 tackles and 1 missed tackle in this game. That's always going to come back and bite you. And by the way, according to PFF, our tackling in this game was atrocious. The run defense is still quite bad, and that continues to be his Achilles heel and why we need Uchenna Nwosu back in the worst way. Witherspoon, about average. Mostly held back by the fact that his tackling grade was abysmal. We'll come back to that. Ernest Jones, about average. He did some really good things in this game, but he also did some really bad things, mostly in the realm of, you guessed it, tackling. And then we get down into the guys who were just kind of bleh. Rayshawn, which, sure, I think that's probably a pretty fair assessment of Rayshawn right now. He's just trying to get his sea legs back. Jonathan Hankins, bleh. Derek Hall, now we're starting to get down into players they actually graded poorly. So you got Derek Hall because of the missed tackling mostly. Byron Murphy gets a pretty poor grade, which is surprising. They really didn't like his run defense. Roy Robertson Harris, he had the penalty and he didn't play that much, so that makes sense. Joby, really bad grade. And look, I think he got picked on a little bit in that game. I'm not saying otherwise. He got picked on a little bit in coverage, but I didn't think he was this bad. I thought he was just kind of normally kind of forgettable. And Jaron Reed, yikes. Doesn't really match up with what I saw in the game, but then again, it's not like he stood out positively to me. And they do notice that, if you do note 0 pressure, 0 tackles from Pro Football Focus, that doesn't add up well. So, not agreeing with everything here, but I don't think anything here is super egregious. Maybe the Woolen grade's egregious. Maybe. But you can see that a lot of these poor scores were because of tackling. They really didn't think we were a good tackling team on Sunday. And looking at these numbers, it's worse than I thought. Of course, we have to assume that the numbers are correct, but missed tackles are a relatively objective stat. They have Kobe Bryant with 1, Boye Mafe with 1, Draymond Jones with 1, so okay, that's okay, but Devin Witherspoon, 3 missed tackles. I didn't feel like it was that big of a problem watching the game. I'm going to have to rewatch some of these plays. Ernest Jones, 3 missed tackles in a game where otherwise I think he played quite well. Like 3 missed tackles for Ernest Jones. That's really surprising. I wonder what they might be seeing that I wasn't. And then Derek Hall with 2 missed tackles, which is really bad for him because he only had 2 total tackles the whole game. So the main reason it seems to me that we were punished so heavily in this grading, even though the defense objectively played a really good game, was a lot of missed tackles. And this is something to clean up going into the next week here, because this comes back to bite you. And we've had games this year where the tackling's been much better than this, so we know we're capable of better. So that's the overall grading. Again, I don't agree with everything. I don't think anything here is terrible, but there are some things here that I pretty vehemently question. Popping into the run defense page real quick, I do want to go here because even though he wasn't graded out well, I do want to point out that Ernest Jones was given 4 run stops in this game, and on his 5 solo tackles, he was credited with an average depth of tackle of 2.8. So even in this game where he gets punished heavily for the missed tackles, you can still see that he is doing his job overall, and he's a big part of the reason why this team is doing such a good job stopping the run compared to earlier this season. And then you're looking at something like Reek Woolen, who got an incredibly high run defense grade, but his average depth of tackle is 8. And I look at that and I just go, the math is not mathing. Same with Julian Love. His average depth of tackle on run plays was 7.5. And I understand that Woolen and Love forced fumbles, and that's probably part of the equation here. But I don't know if that's enough to completely outweigh everything else. I just don't. I will grant you that Love's fumble was, I think, a game saver. I think that game was about to get away from us. And then that forced fumble saved a lot. But at the same time, I'm like, you're trying to evaluate the body of work here. So, I don't think there's too much else on this page that is all that interesting. I do find it kind of interesting that the average depth of tackle that Byron Murphy had 5 total tackles against the run, and they still graded him so poorly. Remember, he's basically a nose tackle. His average depth of tackle is pretty bad, but that surprises me. That doesn't totally make sense to me. But I guess that's really about all there is to say here. Just kind of some interesting numbers going on here. Pass rush, pretty straightforward. Leonard Williams, 4 pressures, including the 2 sacks. And he's not even in the top 2 for highest graded pass rushers because that's the way PFF works sometimes. If you get fewer opportunities to rush the passer and you're effective in them, they're going to grade you really well. Like Kobe Bryant, who had 1 pass rush snap in this game, but he hit Rodgers, so he gets graded well. And Draymond, really good pass rush grade, 4 pressures. So him, Williams, and then Mafe with 3 pressures. They were basically your leaders. And then you had Derek Hall with 2, Kobe Bryant with 1, and then nothing else. We're just not getting quite enough from these other spots. We need Murphy to occasionally get in there and get a pressure. We need the inside linebackers to get in there occasionally and get a pressure. Like Ernest Jones gets sent on the blitz a pretty decent amount for this team, and he doesn't get home. He hasn't gotten home for any kind of accredited pressure once this year, and it's starting to get a little bit frustrating, honestly, because he's really good at it, and we haven't seen that impact yet. He's still a good player. He's still doing really good things for us, but that is something in his game that should be accessible to us. So far, it hasn't been. Coverage. Let's take a look at some coverage stuff here. I think the thing that really stands out positively would be just the safeties. The safeties were among the most effective players for the Seahawks in coverage in this game. 3 targets each, 5 total completions on Love and Bryant, 14 total yards. That is a big departure from what we've seen for a decent chunk of the season, and it's a massive improvement, and it would, if they can keep it up, would be among the cleanest you can find in the entire league. And also Woolen, and this is probably where, look, coverage-wise, he got targeted 7 times, 1 completion, 5 yards. That is remarkable, and it's where I understand this grade, this high grade he got comes from, in part. But again, I just don't understand the run defense thing. But in coverage, he deserves all the credit in the world, right? And let's see, what else do we got here? Tyrese Knight, 3 targets, 17 yards. Totally happy living with that. He's a rookie, right? And Ernest Jones also, I want to say, Ernest Jones, 2 targets, 9 yards. So the inside linebacker is not really getting dotted up at all. And those are the areas that I like to really look at when it comes to coverage on this team. The safeties and the inside linebackers. And they did great. They did great. And Rodgers, that's a big part of the reason why he was so ineffective in this game. There were really only 3 players in this game that gave up anything in coverage. Rayshawn, 4 targets, 34 yards. Not our favorite. But actually not that terrible. Again, he is still trying to get his sea legs back underneath him. Now, and by the way, one thing I want to point out here, I know Love gave up a touchdown in coverage, but it was a shovel pass. I think trying to put that play on Julian Love is kind of, well, you shouldn't do it, is what I'm trying to say. I don't see, yes, technically Julian Love was in coverage on that play, but I don't think anything on that play was his fault. Devin Witherspoon, 5 targets, 40 yards, not great. And the big one, of course, Josh Joby, who got absolutely picked on. 10 targets, 66 yards, which is not terrible, but he also gave up a touchdown. And let's remember, he also had a couple of plays where he got beat and the receiver dropped the ball. And that actually goes for some other players as well, including, I think, Woolen and Witherspoon. So I'm not going to act like these numbers are completely representative of what they did in the game, but I will say that 185 passing yards against Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams. I know that Jets offense has not been good this year, but that's still a good game, and I'm happy with it. I'm really happy. It's a pretty clean looking chart. The only guy who really got beat down in this game overall felt like Joby. I know Witherspoon ended up giving up a decent amount, but this still isn't bad given who he's matched up against. Remember, he did draw an OPI on Adams to take away a big play as well and push the Jets back 10 yards. So to me, that probably comes out of it to a certain extent. And yeah, even the guys here who didn't do very well, they weren't terrible. Like, if you take Joby's numbers at face value, 10 targets, 66 yards is really something that I can live with from my third corner. Again, if not for the drops, it would have been a lot worse, but still. Special teams, I don't know. Like, obviously, Leonard Williams is by far number 1 because he blocked the extra point, and everyone else is just kind of blah until you get down to the bottom. There's a lot of stuff down here at the bottom. Chenault's really low. I don't think I need to tell you why. I don't know why D. Williams is so blasé here, though. I mean, the dude had a fumble on a kickoff return. How bad do you have to mess up before they actually punish you for that? And you can see some of the bad coverage grades as well. You know, the low 50s, the 40s, the 30s. That's how you give up a kick return for a touchdown. So that's really about it for PFF this week. Let me know what you guys think. I will see you guys later. Probably not another video today. Maybe. Depends. But more than likely, see you guys tomorrow. Go Hawks. And we'll have more stuff later.